I only see Jackie McCarthy and Chris Haley for now on Zoom, but obviously if a third select board member joins, we can call to order, but so far so good. I think we'll get started. We've got about 7 people in town hall, and I see right now on Zoom about 13 people, not including RCTV. So what we'll do today essentially is it's an opportunity to hear from the residents on the proposal that we have before town meeting in April to provide rubbish and recycling containers or carts or barrels. We were having a conversation about what to call these things. Chris Cole, our Assistant Director of Public Works, is going to walk through PowerPoint, but essentially what we want to do tonight is mostly listen, answer questions to the best of our ability. I assume a lot of these questions we're not going to have answers to because we haven't finalized the program and the rollout. But with that, I'll hand it off to Chris.
Okay, thank you, Fidel. So this coming April, town meeting will be asked to approve funding to purchase rubbish and recycling carts for every household in town currently receiving town rubbish and recycling collection services. And as you know, the town is constantly seeking out ways to improve upon the rubbish and recycling collection efforts throughout the town. And this presentation will explain our proposal going before town meeting and further discuss the benefits of the town supplying these rubbish and recycling carts for town curbside collection services, as well as what an initiative like this would mean for the town of Reading. So the first slide here gives you an idea of what the carts being proposed might look like curbside on collection day. That's a picture of them outside the town hall. And for those here in the room, we also have a few here samples. We have a 64-gallon, a 48-gallon, and a 32-gallon for you to take a look at before you leave here today. My presentation will focus on the 64-gallon, but you know, per the suggestion of the select board and some residents, we've also received samples from the smaller sizes as well as another option. Okay, next slide. Okay, so now before we get into specifics of what is being proposed, so you're probably wondering, why do we need to address the idea of purchasing carts now anyway? And the answer is we have to plan ahead for the future because the train is coming. Now, I will go into more detail on these points throughout the presentation, but to summarize briefly, our rubbish disposal contract with Covanta expires on June 30th of 2025, and the new contract price is expected to be significantly higher. Only 1 year later, the collection contract that currently we have with Republic Services is set to expire on June 30th of 2026, and that new contract price is expected to be significantly higher as well. Purchasing carts now would lessen the financial impact on the town when the new collection contract is bid in 2026 and would prepare the town for possible future automated rubbish collection at that time if that's the direction the town wanted to move in. Carts would help mitigate rodents, rainfall issues, litter on windy days, and give better aesthetics for the town. Next slide, Phil. So as I just said, the rubbish disposal contract with Covanta that we have, it's a 5-year contract that expires on June 30th of 2025. The current tipping fee is $95.48 per ton. The tipping fee for next year in FY24 will rise 3% to $98.35 per ton. And currently, Reading disposes of approximately 7,000 tons of rubbish per year. The collection contract that we currently have with Republic Services. So as you recall, back on May 16th of 2022, JRM was purchased by Republic. There is no change in their contract, so they're still being held accountable for all the same requirements as in the previous contract. We're currently in the middle of this 10-year contract, which expires on June 30th of 2026. The current contract amount is $1,146,975, and the FY24 contract is $1,181,384, which is a 3% increase each year for the duration of the contract.
Perfect. Select board, call to order, please.
Sure. Could I call the select board to order?
You need a roll call, right?
Yes,
Sure.
actually, so we have members in person. Karen Herrick is in person at Town Hall, and remote we have.
Jackie McCarthy and Chris Hayden. That's it.
Chris and Jackie, can you say you're there?
I'm there. Thanks. Jackie's here. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, next. The other option, the curbside collection program we have is with Black Earth Compost, and that is the curbside food scrap collection. So current subscribers in Reading right now are about 423. The estimated annual tonnage for calendar year 22 is about 111 tons, which translates to about 4.3 gallons per household per week on average. The current plans that Black Earth Compost offers, they have a monthly plan for $13.99, which is weekly pickup, or for you could have the option of $74.99 every 6 months for weekly pickup as well. If you'd like an every other week, a bi-weekly plan, they have plans for $10.99 monthly or $15.99 every 6 months. And new residential subscribers to this receive a 13-gallon compost bin and their first roll of 13-gallon bags, compliments of the town. So who does the town provide rubbish and recycling services to? We have 6,902 1, 2, and 3 family residential, 457 1, 2, and 3 unit apartment and condominium dwellings, 8 school buildings, and 7 municipal buildings. Now, altogether, that amounts for about 74% of the total collection service accounts for the 1, 2, and 3 family residential and the 1, 2, and 3 unit apartment and condominium dwellings. 18% is for the school buildings, and the remaining 8% is for municipal buildings. Excellent. So, what are the benefits of using carts? Rodent issues. Recently you've heard about there being an increase in rats and rodents around town. By going to carts, the rubbish and recycling will be contained in covered barrels. Rainfall issues. One issue that we're seeing too is this will ensure that barrels do not fill with rainwater, preventing the rubbish trucks from spilling this foul-smelling, rubbish-infused water on the roads after they dump the barrels full of water into the trucks. It also allows for better containment of contents. So any loose rubbish or recycling is now prevented from blowing around the neighborhoods on windy days. And it also gives uniform container identity, because containers with uniform appearance not only improve the aesthetics of the town on collection days, but it also allows better identification for Republic or whoever the trash the company is to differentiate trash versus recycling. And also carts would be purchased by the town and would become property of the town. So you're probably asking yourselves, well, what are our peer communities doing for rubbish and recycling services currently? So we surveyed Reading's comparable communities. And we asked them about size of carts. And so most communities are using 64-gallon carts for rubbish, and for recycling, 64 gallons if weekly, 96 gallons if bi-weekly. For quantity of carts per household, one rubbish cart, 64-gallon rubbish cart per household. However, if that one cart is not sufficient, residents in those communities have an option to lease a second cart for an annual fee, or residents can also purchase overflow bags at a local convenience store that would could be placed out. It's a 30-gallon bag that could be placed out with the cart or on top of the cart for, if you have like extra rubbish from a weekend party or around the holidays or something like that. And then the recycling cart, as I said, 64 gallons if recycling is collected weekly, or 96 gallons if the recycling is collected bi-weekly. And bulk item disposal, basically the same as we have here currently right now. One item per week at no charge, or unlimited fee-based with the rubbish hauler. So right now you can call up Republic and arrange a special collection with them if you have more rubbish than is typically allowed. So what would some of the resident options be for those that have extra rubbish under this proposal? So as I just mentioned, overflow bags. And this would definitely be a preferred option for the town, as overflow bags would minimize administrative involvement by the town. Residents would have the option of purchasing a 30-gallon overflow bag to be placed with their rubbish cart, and they can be purchased at local grocery convenience stores. The retail costs will range anywhere from $2 to $3 per bag. The actual purchase price by the town is 38 cents, or approximately per bag. So the difference in that cost from what the town pays to what the retail price is would be for disposal costs of the trash and also administrative fees for the vendor, Waste Zero, who would work with the different convenience stores to maintain their inventory. The town would have no interaction at all with these stores. All the interaction would be with Waste Zero, so that would be for like an administrative fee. The bags are made of a heavy-duty plastic, 1.5 millimeters thick, and come customized with the town seal on them. As I also said previously, residents can sign up for Black Earth Compost, which is another preferred option. Residents could subscribe to Black Earth curbside collection program to eliminate the food scraps from their rubbish stream and reduce the weekly curbside rubbish volume. And then also mentioned is the option of resident households leasing additional carts if they felt that the one cart was not sufficient for what they dispose of on a weekly basis. This is a less desirable method only for the town, only because it creates logistical challenges for the town staff. Because now we have to think about where we have to store extra barrels, from when a resident decides that they might want an extra one, and then the logistics of distribution as well, given that we have limited staff, and also then payment management. So each household could obtain one additional rubbish cart, a 64-gallon rubbish cart, for an annual charge, and if they wanted so, an extra 64-gallon recycling cart could be obtained at no additional cost because, we always want to promote recycling. Next slide, Phil. So in anticipation of some of the questions that we might get asked, I put together a series of questions that I'll go through now, and then at the end, if you have any additional questions, feel free to ask them then. So how many carts would each household receive under this proposal? So we're proposing that each household would receive one 64-gallon rubbish cart and one 64-gallon recycling cart. How many carts will the town need to purchase? So the town would have to purchase approximately 7,400 rubbish carts and 7,800 recycling carts. How much will this cost and how will it be funded? So April town meeting would be asked to approve $900,000 to purchase carts, and this would be paid for through debt starting on July 1st. Have grant opportunities been explored to fund this? And the answer is yes. We have explored grant opportunities for recycling carts only. A couple of examples, Mass DEP has a grant But unfortunately, the town is not eligible because the stipulation for that grant is the weekly household rubbish allowance can be no more than 35 gallons. And for, most households in this town, their weekly disposal volume is more than that. There's also another grant, Recycling Partnership Grant, which is, Recycling Partnership is a national nonprofit. And this provides funding for purchasing recycling carts and implementing recycling education and outreach efforts. Next slide, please. So what would be the benefit of switching to carts now? So having carts in place now would ensure a smooth transition if the town decided to switch to automated collection when the current collection contract expires in June of '26. And would also add flexibility in that the carts would not be tied to any change in collection contracts. What I mean about this is typically you'll see that these carts have a warranty of at least up to 15 years. So they're going to last at least 15 years, and given the volatility of the markets right now, you will not see a trash collection contract probably longer than 5 years. So by having the carts in place, you're not going to have to switch the carts out every 5 years when you get a new collection vendor. If funding is approved, when could residents expect to see their carts? So lead time on these carts is at least 6 to 8 weeks. So at the earliest, you could possibly see in deliveries sometime this fall. Is Republic Services on board if the town switched to carts? Republic sees this as an improvement over our current process. Fidel spoke with the regional manager, and they have no concerns with this rollout at all, if we were to go with it. How will the cart program be rolled out? So whatever vendor we decide to go with, they would perform the initial delivery of the rubbish and recycling carts to each household, and then the Department of Public Works would perform any maintenance and any further deliverables beyond that initial rollout as needed. And as I said, 10 to 12 year warranty, but carts very easily could last more than 15, 20 years before anything needs to be replaced. So the big question, why would the town only provide one 64-gallon rubbish cart to each household when the current rubbish limit is 120 gallons? So from surveying Reading's peer communities, providing one 64-gallon rubbish cart per household would get Reading in line with what all these other communities are already doing. And as you will see on my next slide, we have hard data that actually shows that the average amount of rubbish generated by a single Reading household is less than 64 gallons per week. So what options exist if a resident has more than the 64 gallons of rubbish per week? Well, as I already touched upon, residents could purchase the 30-gallon overflow bags that could be placed with their cart. Residents could subscribe to the Black Earth Compost collection program, which eliminates the food scraps from their rubbish stream. Each household, if the town decided they wanted to go this route, could obtain one additional rubbish cart, 64-gallon possibly, for an additional charge, or an extra 64-gallon recycling cart could be attained at no additional cost. Next slide. So what you see here now is a comparison of the average weekly household rubbish and recycling volumes of the past 4 calendar years. So these volumes were calculated based on the total tonnage collected each week for both rubbish and recycling, which were then broken down by the number of households serviced. The blue bars represent household rubbish volumes, and the orange bars represent the recycling volumes. And as you can see, even in calendar year 2020, during the height of the pandemic, when most people were home and had nothing better to do than clean out their basements and attics, the average weekly household rubbish volume was still less than 64 gallons per week, actually at 63.5. Then by last year, in 2022, you can see that the rubbish volumes stabilized out to the level they were at pre-pandemic, even just slightly below. You can also see that the recycling volumes would not be an issue, as the average over the past 4 years was only 23.5 gallons per household. Next slide. So now some pros and cons. So what are the pros and cons of an overflow bag versus an extra cart? So pro, the bags are more economical when you might only have extra rubbish periodically. Pro, bags offer the least administrative alternative for the town. Pro, an extra cart gives the convenience of already having it on hand when it's needed. Con, an extra cart would require additional storage for a household. Con, allowing an extra cart create logistical challenges for town staff, since the town would be responsible for storing and distributing the extra carts, as well as managing resident payment options. How will residents dispose of bulk items, if we go to carts? So residents would still be allowed to place their one bulk item curbside per week. That part of the service would not change. And just to familiarize yourself, a bulk item is defined as a piece of furniture, toilet, fiberglass tub, a grill with the tank removed, lawnmower, countertop, microwave, etc. A bulk item is not to exceed 60 pounds in weight. And lastly, what can residents do with their old rubbish and recycling containers? So the old red recycling bins make great storage containers for anything that you might need to use them for around your house. Any plastic containers can also be recycled at one of our rigid plastic events that we have 2 times a year. We have one coming up this spring and then another one in the fall. And then any metal containers can be recycled through the curbside scrap metal collection program. So this concludes our presentation, and we'd now welcome any questions that you may have on this proposal.
Great. So what we'll do is we'll start with questions here in the room in the select board room, and then we'll go to Zoom. For the Zoom participants, if you don't mind raising your hand to when you want to ask a question, and I guess for the folks in the room, if you don't mind coming to the podium, just so RCTV can hear you. If you got any statements, any words, or any questions. Go ahead, sir. Can you come to the podium, Mr. Kurt?
Yes. Thank you. Kurt Nichie, 453 Havel Street in Reading. And my question is, when this town recycling, trash pickup ceased operating, like 6 months ago, and the town had to go around with a front end loader and several dump trucks and a little ground crew. How did that work out? My question is.
By the town collecting the rubbish themselves?
Yeah, themselves. It seemed to work out from our perspective. It seemed to work out well.
Well, we managed it, but during that time, Public Works wasn't able to do anything else. We weren't filling potholes. We weren't.
Yeah, and it wasn't very efficient. I mean, it was literally we were picking up bags and dumping it into a loader, and that loader was going into a dump truck, and that dump truck would go to the yard and dump it into a dumpster, and that dumpster had to be hauled up.
I thought the dump truck was going right up to the incinerating.
No.
Oh.
It was.
But that's we're just little people, trying to pay our taxes, and that's.
Yeah, Reading hasn't done their own collection in many years or decades. We used to many years ago when the landfill was open where Home Depot is, but not in quite a while.
Yeah, and not many cities and towns actually do their trash now. It's mostly outsourced.
Yes.
Mostly outsourced.
Okay. All right. Well, is there's going to be some publications coming out? I couldn't. It sounds like we're going to get 2 trash barrels, one recycling and one 64-gallon.
Yeah, one trash cart and one recycling.
Yeah, probably the same size.
Yeah.
And we just put them out as need be. And they, now, are we paying rental, a dredge charge on that or anything like that, or?
No, I mean, only if the town decides to go the option of allowing residents a second, like, trash cart.
Oh, okay.
Then, what other towns are doing is it'd be like an annual lease.
And are these two trash barrels, the 64 gallon, are they going to be owned by the town? Did I understand that when you said that?
Yes.
Yeah. So what happens if a mouse eats through the bottom and worse? And would you just call the town up, or do you anticipate, and they'll replace it with
Yep, absolutely, yep, exactly,
so,
yes.
you know, what else to try to fix it?
No,
Some of us are capable of doing it.
no, if
Okay,
any-
well,
We'll try.
thank you very much.
No, if any-
And could I get your name again?
Chris Cole,
Last name?
Cole, C-O-L-E.
Cole?
Yes,
And you're?
I'm the Assistant Public Works Director.
Oh. And I do want to take a minute and say that we had a problem on Sanborn Road with the sidewalk. The Reading Board of Public, Reading Municipal Light did their portion of it, and the DPW did their portion of it, and it is perfect.
Oh, perfect, great, thank
It
you.
is absolutely perfect.
Thank you.
And I'm very pleased that it was very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. I mean, the average person could trip on it and open up their knee. But did a good job. Very pleased. I used to be on the Board of Public Works
Oh, okay.
a long time ago. And so I'm patting myself on the back. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
for that.
Thank you. Anyone else in the group? Yes, please.
Good evening.
evening.
Bob Chipoletti, Stonewell Road. I like the idea that, you're standardizing, that's fine. And you're gonna charge people who have excess trash. It sure would be nice for those of us who have less to have some incentive too. So I would like to be offered a 32-gallon barrel. Now, let me ask you a question. There's no difference. The truck's gonna pick up any one of those three, right?
Yep.
Okay. Are they only gonna pick it up if it says Reading on it?
So the I will tell you that other places, right, other cities and towns, this is a rollout for a lot of reasons, right? As Chris said, right? So we'd like to eventually move to a place where everyone has really solid containers that have a lid and are sturdy, right, and don't have holes in them. So initially, as we roll things out, we're gonna transition it slowly, right? I mean, transition it slowly, but eventually, I would like to think that we would like all residents to use a standardized cart for our benefit.
But they're all three are standardized carts.
Yeah.
So what I'm proposing is that if you won't give me a 32-gallon barrel, it'd be pretty easy to set up a website. Every resident goes in and says, I want 64, I want 32. But if you don't want to do that, I'm going to sell my 64 to Kurt. He needs an extra one. And I'm going to go to Home Depot and buy a 32. And it's going to look exactly like that, and the truck's going to pick it up.
Gotcha. I understand. I mean, and this is the I'll say that this is the biggest concern that I've heard so far, right? That residents want to be offered another option. I think that Chris and I, what we're saying is that standardized rollouts are easier than non-standardized rollout, right? And I'm sure that's something you can appreciate, right?
But if there's some way to get that option,
Yeah.
even if you say no, everybody's getting 64, I should be allowed to go out and buy a 32 and put it out on the street and get it picked up.
Yeah,
As long as it's quality.
yeah. I think that we are actually planning to put out a survey townwide to get a sense, how many households would want that option. Is it 10 or is it 1,000? Right? It's very different in terms of planning on our part.
You're gonna get more that want more than
Right.
those of us who want less.
I believe so.
Right?
So if it's only a handful of residents that then we will do everything possible to accommodate you.
Because, the black earth option is the way we reduce down to the smaller barrel.
Yep.
But we're paying to do that.
Sure.
So we're doing a benefit for the town by giving you less trash, and we're paying money to do that. And I understand there's not a lot of people in that program yet.
Yes.
But the idea is to try and encourage less, and you're doing that by charging for the extra barrel. It'd be nice to have maybe a 40% tax credit if I go to the 32 instead of the 64. How's that?
You got it.
Well, maybe not 40, 35.
Nice program. I like that.
I'm Chris Chevrolet. I'm Bob's wife. And I'd like to add another dimension to this. Those are very big barrels. We happen to have an extremely long driveway that has a hill at the end. And I would be really challenged to drag that barrel down the driveway. Right now, we get our trash to the street by putting it in our car and driving it down the driveway. That's even the smallest one is impossible to pick up and put in my car.
Yeah,
And, I'm not handicapped.
Sure.
There are people that are handicapped.
Sure, absolutely. I think when we met here, we gave you the idea maybe of the overflow bag, and that seemed to be a little easier for you, right? Of handling the trash through the bag, and so that is always an option. And I mean, and I'm sure there's going to be homes that that's an easier option for.
But you can't put recycling in that.
That is true. That is true. It's only for trash. The overflow bag is only for trash. Yeah. I understand. Mr. Joe?
Hi, Joe Carnahan, 39 Middlesex Ave. A couple questions.
Sure.
First, you presented the average trash. Now, I'm guessing we probably got that number by Covanta bills us for this much trash, we divide by the number of people. Probably much harder to figure out anything about the distribution, isn't it? Like how close to that average people are. I mean, I'm afraid if half the town is 5 gallons less than the average, and half the town is 5 gallons more, then half the town won't be able to use the 64 gallons, which would, okay, maybe it would encourage them to conserve. But so I'm guessing you don't have this information, but I'll just offer it as a suggestion to try to get this information because it's going to be a good question at town meeting. Speaking of town meeting, I had another question. So there's a bunch of unknowns here, like we've talked about. Like we might do second 64 gallon cart. We might offer more than one size of barrel. And I'm curious when we'll know the answer to those things, and will we know the answer to those things, in 4 weeks at town meeting?
I'll take a stab on the count. I mean, the what we did to come up with the 7,400 number, right? It basically it's a 1 cart per unit, right? So and there's a little buffer there, right? The company that we're buying it from, right? They're agnostic in terms of like if we want to order 64s, 32s, 48s, it's a local decision, right? And it's a decision that we have to weigh short term plus long term, right? So all to say that the number of cars that are needed and the overall cost of the rollout isn't drastically different. The $32 cart, the 32-gallon cart and the 64-gallon cart, there isn't that much price difference. It's only a few dollar difference in terms of the price of the carts. So what we're planning to do is essentially do a survey, right, of the town and say, in broad strokes, right? Is it as you said, is it 10 homes or is it 10% of the homes, right? And we're going to do that survey as soon as elections are over, and we'll have that information ahead of town meeting. to educate essentially our decision. But the rollout won't be significantly impacted if we do allow 32 gallon carts. It's more of a long-term maintenance of the program that is a concern.
Yeah, thank you. This will be good information to have for town meeting again, just because it'll be, I know a lot of people do have concerns with the sizes, and it'd be good to know if we have an answer before we decide to borrow $900,000.
Yeah.
So,
No, and Chris spent some time with Danvers, who is doing this rollout, right? And our director is from Methuen, who just did it, and what I think we learned that the rollout is for 90% of the residents, right? And if we can do 90% of the residents, in one shot over 1 week period, then it's easier to handle, say, the 50 or so residents that need some special accommodation. For us to roll out, 14,000 trash barrels, is going to be a heavy lift, right? I mean, it's going to be easier to handle those anomalies, if you will, the outliers. Sorry, that was a bad word. The outliers in the rollout.
cool, thanks. I see questions popping up in the chat, so let Zoom people know.
Yes, sir.
Or in person, go ahead.
I know, Robert Corwin, Summer Ave. So it seems like the whole program is kind of like you said, a big lift for the town as well as the residents to kind of get their arms around, get comfortable with and whatnot. Was there any discussion about splitting it and doing recycling first? Get everybody up to speed on getting used to the, process with recycling. Get rid of the red barrels, and that's going to be a huge benefit. And then, phase 2, doing the garbage. Now, the trash seems to be a little more complicated as well. So I'm just curious if that was discussed and why it may not have been, thought of as a good idea.
So Eric Gaffin actually on in the chat just asked the same question. If we could kind of split it out, right? The rollout. Obviously, in terms of economies of scale, right? If you will, right? We will probably get charged the same as a town, right? Whether it's it's 100 barrels or 1,000 barrels, right? Because it's a vendor that's come in, do the training, right? We got to do all of this, education and things like that. Is it possible to stagger the implementation? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's I would argue actually the opposite, that we get more benefits with the trash than with the recycling.
I understand the concept of why we're looking to do this, and I understand that that's the goal, is to reduce our trash and move as much of it to recycling as we can, so as to reduce our overall tonnage and all that whole 9 yards.
Yeah,
I understand that completely.
There's also benefits though, like from if you drive around town, right? There people put out trash in all ways,
Yes.
right?
Standardization doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. I mean,
understand that
and in
completely.
some cases, it's the metal cans,
Yeah.
right? I mean, with no wheels. I mean, there's so the as Chris was saying, from a rodent standpoint, right? Having trash barrels that are heavy duty, don't have holes in them, have lids, right? I think trash is actually.
I agree with you, on all those points, absolutely. But at the same time, if you were just to do the recycling barrel, I think you would automatically see a reduction in your trash because you're giving everybody an easier way to recycle. You make it easier, hopefully you would think they're going to do it instead of having all those little red bins. I mean, some people I've seen, they have half a dozen or more of those red bins out in front of their house. That's insane, you know? But one cart, off you go. I have two. I mean, I've already carted. I do carts, so, you know. But then the other piece of it, which is from the trash, is the bag thing. Why we now have it where you can have a couple of bags, you know, in addition to your barrels. There's already a metric in place. Why would that just not be the same as to try to, instead of making it all cumbersome with these bags that people would have to buy, and then, you know, then there's some administration on the backside of that. I mean, I understand, you know, I don't know how much ends up going to the offset of the cost of the trash when all's said and done, because are the retailers not getting any money from this?
No, so and this company, Waste Zero.
Yeah.
Waste Zero, it's they pretty much have a lot of towns around us, right? In terms of the market, the market basket is not getting a cut. It's more of a partnership that they established with the company. So there is no profit sharing, if you will. Our goal is essentially to price the bag so that it does subsidize the cost of disposal of trash, right? And again, I mean what happened in October, I think for all of us, and not just Reading, but all of the towns around us, it was a bit of a wake up call, right? I mean we have been in great positions from a trash contract standpoint, right? And not just Reading, it's in Burlington, you know, I'll tell you a story in a second of Danvers, right? I mean we think and we know the train is coming, right?
What happened in October?
So in October, Republic Services essentially bought JRM. Exactly.
Yeah.
And there was a gap in service, right, of about 2.5 weeks or 3 weeks. At that point, we went out and collected quotes from five vendors. There are options, but no options at our price point, right? So and what we were learning is essentially that most of the vendors are requiring automation at this point. Are requiring automation because of labor shortages, because of liability issues, right? I mean, as you can imagine, their employees are safer with automation than with no automation. So in Danvers, we just heard a story that their price is almost double. In with a new contract in Burlington, their prices went up by 40%, and these are communities that population-wise are pretty similar to Reading. So we feel that the sooner we get on the bandwagon, if you will, because this is going to be a transition, right? For us, for the vendor, for the residents, right? So
Which is kind of why I'm thinking, you do a kind of in a step fashion or phased fashion, it might be received a little bit better, because the last thing you need is some sort of revolt.
Sure.
Not that Reading revolts. But that's it for now.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen Herrick, Dividends Road. Thank you, Chris, once again. So I was just gonna ask about the survey. Could the survey ask a question, how many residents would be willing to come and get their own barrel to take that pressure off? Because not everyone will be able to do it, but I would still like the smaller option. I think I said that before, I still want a small option. But I could stick a smaller option in the back of the same vehicle that I might be taking my old crappy ones down to throw in the dumpster that you might be getting anyway. So just throw that out there. You might just ask, are people willing to pick up their own? I don't know if that would significantly make your lives easier. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Marley Navita, Strawberry Hill Lane. I came late, so I apologize for that, but what if I already have a small one like that? Is that good enough? Like, just like that?
So that was a question that was asked earlier. If it's the same kind, same brand, literally same, can you put it out essentially, right? My answer would be that during a transition period, absolutely. I would like to think that at some point, for the benefit of everyone, we want to go to a standardized cart that is the same for everyone. And I don't mean by it's the same brand. I mean a more controlled process.
And what's the transition period, a year?
And this is part of the process. We right now we don't have approval to do anything. So if town meeting shuts us down, this project is dead, right? So it's hard to have all the answers, plan for everything, do all the outreach if we don't have that approval. So once we have the approval from town meeting, it doesn't mean that we're going to stop doing this. I mean, we're still going to have a few forums, a few mailers in particular. We're going to do some more surveys and try to iron out. So the transition would probably be close to a year.
Okay, thanks.
Bob Schiffoletti again. A question. I understand the logistics of handing out different sized barrels is more complicated. But after that is done, is there a need for standardization of size? In other words, I know you're going to want to keep some in the town garage or town yard or whatever. Is that a huge number that you keep, or
So
would it be okay to have some 32s and 64s?
Exactly, and this is what we learned from Danvers today. That their focus is out of 7,400, right? To with the vendor do as many as possible, and once the rollout is actually starting in July. It's going to be in July in Danvers. So the approach that they're taking is they'll handle the majority of the residents at that time, and we'll probably have some more conversations about the smaller carts, with the residents that truly want it.
Okay. It might be better to have that conversation before you buy them.
Definitely, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Well, they don't go bad.
Yeah, we'll keep them. Yeah, for 15 years. There's a couple of questions on Zoom. I'll ask Aaron Gavitz first. Is there a cost saving to buy all the barrels at once versus rolling out over a 3-year in anticipation of your contract? I don't know that I have the answer to that question, but I can find out. We buy through a Mass DEP state contract. I assume that barrels will pricing will go up year over year. So I would assume that buying them all at once is a little cheaper. Chris, just give me 1 second. One more question. Has the town explored incentives to encourage more residents to compost through Black Earth? So I don't know if you want to take that one.
Yes, we're constantly putting out literature. We sent information out in the water bills, encouraging residents to sign up for the Black Earth Compost Program. And as I said, right now I believe there's about I think I actually have got some updated numbers today. There's up to like 447 subscribers now over the 423 that I had in the presentation. But yeah, I mean, we're constantly putting out literature, encouraging residents to sign up for that program, and it's a great way of reducing the rubbish stream.
Yeah, and we met with Black Earth individually to address this question. A few cities and towns have gone to totally free composting, and the vendor actually shared that has mixed results, because if it's free, there's no incentive to actually operate the in this way. So the jury is out whether if giving it for free is actually a benefit to the town. One more question actually on Zoom, and then I'll go to Chris. Is the only way to put out extra recycling with the extra bin, or will you still be able to use things like the red containers? What about boxes broken down that won't really fit easily in those containers? Most people just put out those out besides their bins now. I don't know if you got to take on that.
I mean, typically, with the size of those containers, cardboard boxes, can be broken down and usually, just slid down the side of the container, and then you put your other recyclables, in the center. I think the idea is that everything would be contained within the recycling cart, just so it would prevent, anything from blowing around the neighborhood or, getting wet or whatever it may be. Just, if we can keep everything enclosed in those containers, that's the goal of this program right now.
Mr. Chris Haney, are you? Did you have your hand raised?
Yes, Fidel.
Go ahead.
Thanks. And thank you for the presentation, Chris. I just had, I sent you the questions, which I think you somewhat answered right now, but the, still using the red recycling bins kind of makes sense, obviously. And that solves the, kind of space issues with those and the weight issues and whatnot. So I guess for me, the other thing is, are we able to still use the similar barrels? Like a bunch of people have already asked that question. Like I personally have the exact same toter 64-gallon thing. So for me to just get rid of it just seems completely wasteful and backwards compared to what we would be doing when I already have the barrel to begin with. And I technically have two of them. So I can understand if the town needs engravings or markings on it or something like that. But for us to get rid of, those kind of barrels just seems kind of ridiculous in this scenario. So if there's a way for us to keep them, as well as one of the prior speakers, how they mentioned that they'll just go buy a 32. I definitely think that we have to have two different options like that, a 32 and a 64. Now, obviously, we'll do the survey. We'll see how right we are when that comes back. But the 64 thing is just gigantic for some people to be able to move around. So, do you have any thoughts on that, Fidel, about people? Like, I understand you don't want to have like random barrels all over the place. I know you want to standardize things across the board, but if people have, and like, you can just drive around, like tons of people have these same barrels. Like, why wouldn't we just keep them then? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the only issue would be, what condition are they in, and are they truly, standardized? I think we can look into how that's been handled also.
And then I think it would be the logistic issue. You probably then want someone from the town coming out to make sure that the barrel that the homeowner wants to use is up to a certain standard. And that could create a logistic issue with just staffing, to be able to do that, so.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't want to create an issue, but if you're going to drop off a 64-gallon barrel that is identical to the one that I already have, I mean, it just seems like I said, we're going to be throwing all of these away, which just seems like a massive concern to begin with, as well as additional money to the town or us, or you having logistics. Now, I understand that if you give me a 64, as part of the whole entire rollout, that's fine. But if I already have the other ones, I should still be able to use those in lieu of me going with the $100 or whatever fee we end up charging in rental. Like, technically, you're never even going to notice unless they're going to refuse to pick up barrels with the engravings.
Exactly.
I mean, they're identical.
Yeah.
The same ones at Home Depot. Unless you're changing colors, then all right, now you're getting a little off. And maybe actually, now that I think of it, maybe that's how you can do it, is just change the color of the lids to be red or whatever fancy color that they can do for us. And then people just pick up the lids and then it qualifies. And if the lid doesn't fit on, they're not taking the barrel. So that's how you can kind of filter it out and not have to have staff come out. So we'll see what the survey is, but I appreciate the questions and hearing from people.
Absolutely. So Eileen on Zoom asked one question, which I think eventually boils down to I think what we're hearing. What other options are we going to offer people who are disabled, who are elderly and live alone, and concerns with having a one-size-fits-all mandate. So absolutely, I think that is probably the aside from the question of could we phase this in, I think the concern that I've heard the most is that it's folks that are elderly in particular, not having concerns with a 64-gallon cart. Jay Jackson answered or asked, would you ever give away a free compost bin that can be used within our yard? I think he's talking about yeah, I'm sorry.
Nope, we actually have, just had that request, and we actually have home composting bins on order right now, so those will be coming out. You'll be seeing advertisements for those, coming out in the next several months, where homeowners can purchase, home composting bins.
Sounds good. So Mr. J, be on the lookout for that posting.
Any idea the price on that?
Not yet. I don't have a definitive price on that yet, but it will be advertised. So.
Do you mind if I ask one more question?
Sure, go ahead.
So for folks, I'm just trying to think about the folks that are having trouble with the 64 gallon bins. Are they still able to take like whatever bin they need and go to the town dump and drop it off there?
We don't have a dump yet.
That closed a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I had said in the presentation is, so Public Works has twice a year, one in the fall, once in the spring, and we may end up having more of these events if we go to this program. We have a rigid plastic day where residents can bring their old barrels down to the DPW yard and recycle them and get rid of these, the old plastic barrels that they had. And we also have the curbside scrap metal collection where if you have a metal barrel, you can get rid of it during that event as well.
Okay, thank you. My apologies, I didn't know. I do want to say this is a great plan, so thank you for moving forward and everyone doing this. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jay.
Marlene Avita again. If our new contract is a whole new price, I missed that part of the presentation, what the proposed numbers are. Could a calculation be done where we could have a less expensive contract if 50% of the town composted or 75% of the town composted because of the weight of the trash when you don't compost, that it's well over 50% of the weight of the trash is food. So if the town said, but 50% of our town is composting, could we have a less expensive new contract with the public?
So there's two components to the contract. One is the incinerator in Haverhill, right? And the other one is the pickup, right? The pickup of like the actual truck that comes in and grabs the trash. I would say that we would need to increase composting absolutely by a lot. If you see this graphic, we have 7,000 a ton of trash, right? But right now at the moment, I guess calendar year 2022, we had 111 tons of composting, right? So it's 2%, right? I mean it's very small, and not only that, but it's going to take a lot of time to as a country, we've been building recycling for a long time. right? So composting is probably,
Another 50 years.
yeah. It's gonna take a long time to get composting where we need it to be. I don't think we'll,
I'm just looking for a financial incentive to the residents to say, well, if more of us get on board with this, it'll help the whole town have a less expense, because it's such an expense for the town.
Sure.
I'm just,
yeah.
And as far as the collection contract goes, we are still in a 10-year contract with Republic, so we have another 3 years before that contract's up.
so when do we start talking about the new contract? Like in a year?
In a year? Yeah, year and a half maybe.
Year and a half, 2 years, yeah.
I do not see any more questions on the chat. Any more questions in the room? Going once? Just kidding, all good. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you for coming.
Have a good night.
Very informative, thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you, Mr. Kurt.
So the brand I have to have is, well, not, whatever.
Yeah, anybody feel free to pull those carts out and try pushing them, just, the easiest way is just tip them,
Yeah.
tip them back and
It's like for-
Sorry, I totally forgot about that.
It's fine.